What if I told you that right now you could choose between two smartphones completely free? One is the latest Android and the other is the latest iPhone. Which one would you pick without thinking, the iPhone or the Android? And more importantly, would that really be the best phone for you or would you just be following the trend? So welcome everyone. Today we're going to talk about one of the biggest debates that happens every single day on social media, in offices, schools, and even among friends, Android versus iPhone. Some people say an iPhone is a status symbol. Others say Android gives you more features. Some believe nothing can beat the iPhone when it comes to security, while others argue that Android gives you the best value for your money. But what's the truth? Today we're going to find out, is an expensive phone always the better phone? Is Android really more powerful than the iPhone? Or does the iPhone's premium experience actually justify its higher price? In today's video, we're not taking sides. Instead, we'll compare both platforms using facts, real-life examples, and practical experience. By the end of this video, you'll be able to decide for yourself whether Android or iPhone is the better choice for you. So without wasting any more time, let's get started. First of all, let's understand what Android and iPhone actually are. A lot of people think Android is a smartphone company, but that's not true. Android is actually an operating system developed by Google. It's used by companies like Samsung, Xiaomi, OnePlus, Vivo, Oppo, Realme, Motorola, and many others. In other words, Android isn't just one phone, it's an entire ecosystem made up of thousands of different smartphones. The iPhone, on the other hand, is made exclusively by Apple. Apple doesn't just build the phone, it also designs the software, the processor, and the entire ecosystem. That's why the iPhone experience feels very different from most Android phones. This is where both platforms begin to follow completely different philosophies. Android is built around freedom, flexibility, and giving users more choices. Apple focuses on simplicity, security, and creating a perfectly optimized experience. And that's exactly why the Android versus iPhone debate has continued for so many years. The first thing most people notice about a phone is its design. When you walk into a phone store, the very first thing that catches your eye is how the phone looks. With Android, you have endless choices: curved displays, flat displays, gaming phones, slim designs, foldable phones, premium glass finishes. Every manufacturer tries to create its own unique identity. That's why Android users have so many design options to choose from. Now let's talk about the iPhone. Apple has always followed a simple yet premium design philosophy. Every year, Apple makes small improvements while maintaining its signature look. That's why you can usually recognize an iPhone from across the room. If you like variety and different styles, Android gives you more options. If you prefer a clean, premium, and consistent design, the iPhone is hard to beat. Now let's move on to one of the most important factors for almost everyone: price. Whether your budget is $150, $300, $600, or even $1,000, Android has a phone for every budget. That's one of Android's biggest strengths, whether you're a student, an office worker, or a gamer. There's an Android phone that fits your needs. The iPhone, however, starts in the premium category. Apple rarely focuses on budget smartphones. That's why many people want an iPhone but choose Android because it fits their budget better. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. The best phone isn't the most expensive one. The best phone is the one you can afford and the one that meets your needs. Now let's talk about performance. Performance isn't determined by RAM alone. It isn't just about the processor either. Real performance comes from the combination of hardware and software working together. Android phones use different processors. Some use Snapdragon, others use MediaTek. Some use Google's Tensor chips, and a few brands even build their own processors. That's why Android performance varies from phone to phone. Apple, on the other hand, designs its own A-series chips, which are known for their incredible speed and efficiency. That's why an iPhone with only 8 GB of RAM can sometimes perform just as smoothly, or even better than an Android phone with 12 GB of RAM, if you mainly use social media, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube. Both phones will give you an excellent experience. But if you're editing 4,000 videos, doing professional creative work, or running heavy applications, a flagship iPhone usually has a slight advantage because of its software optimization. Now let's talk about the camera. Today, smartphones have become much more than just phones. There are cameras, our video recorders, our document scanners, and the place where we store our memories. Android manufacturers continue introducing exciting camera innovations every year: 200 megapixel cameras, periscope zoom lenses, AI-powered photography, even moon photography. Android brands push camera technology very aggressively. However, when it comes to video recording, the iPhone is still considered one of the best. That's why so many YouTubers, filmmakers, and vloggers still rely on iPhones for recording videos. For photography, both Android and iPhone deliver amazing results. But when it comes to video consistency, the iPhone still has a slight edge. Now let's talk about battery life. Nobody wants a phone that dies halfway through the day. Android manufacturers have invested heavily in battery technology. 5,000 mAh batteries, 6,000 mAh batteries. Some phones can even charge from 0 to full in around 20 minutes. Fast charging is one of Android's biggest strengths. The iPhone usually has a smaller battery on paper. However, thanks to Apple's software optimization, battery life is still very impressive. But when it comes purely to charging speed, Android is generally much faster. Cybercrime and online scams are becoming more common every year. That's why smartphone security matters more than ever. Apple takes security very seriously. Every app on the App Store goes through a strict review process before it's approved. As a result, the risk of malware is relatively low. Android is also secure. However, Android users should avoid downloading random APK files or installing apps from untrusted websites. If you stick to trusted sources, Android can also provide a very safe experience. Another important factor is software updates. Apple provides software updates for its iPhones for many years. That means even older iPhones continue receiving new features and security improvements. With Android, update policies depend on the manufacturer. Some companies now promise 6 or even 7 years of updates. Others only provide updates for 2 or 3 years. That's why checking a brand's update policy before buying an Android phone is always a smart idea. Now let's talk about gaming. If you play PUBG, Call of Duty, Free Fire, or Genshin Impact, both platforms deliver an excellent gaming experience. Gaming-focused Android phones often include advanced cooling systems, RGB lighting, gaming triggers, and high refresh rate displays. Meanwhile, the iPhone delivers consistently smooth performance thanks to its powerful processor and optimized software. So when it comes to gaming, both platforms are excellent. The main difference is that Android offers more customization, while the iPhone focuses on consistent performance. So far, we've compared Android and iPhone in terms of design, price, performance, cameras, battery life, charging speed, security, software updates, and gaming. But the most interesting part is still coming. In Part 2, we'll explore the Apple ecosystem, AI features, privacy, resale value, durability, repair costs, common myths, real-world comparisons, and the pros and cons of both platforms. By the end, you'll know exactly which phone is the right choice for you. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss Part 2. See you there.